everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am the Darklight Emissary, and this episode is on a theory regarding Rogal Dorn and his possible return into the Warhammer 40k setting. Now, this theory popped into my head today. I was perusing the Warhammer 40k lore subreddit, and a post there was, "Is Dorn truly missing or dead?" Basically was the question that the user was asking. And I thought about it, and I had replied to the post that I had a possible theory regarding Rogal Dorn. Now, if you are reading the Bequin trilogy of novels, my theory is involving them. So if you do not want to be spoiled on those books, I would recommend reading those books first, the first and second book in that trilogy, and then coming back to this video if you want to get my theory. If you don't mind a possible spoiler to those books, though, and you are reading them, then by all means continue listening, but I just wanted to give that slight disclaimer here at the beginning of this video. So my theory is basically involving what's going on right now in the 42nd millennium Bequin trilogy of books by Dan Abnett. If you aren't familiar with those books, they follow a woman named Bequin, who is the clone of a former colleague of Gregor Eisenhorn of the Eisenhorn book fame. Bequin was one of his oldest associates, one of the first of his retinue he found early on in the first book. And so we as readers of those novels have been familiar with Bequin for a long time. And then she seemingly died in, I believe, the last book. It was either the second or last book of the Eisenhorn trilogy. They got in a very bad situation involving a Chaos Titan, or at least a hijacked Titan, hunting them, and she tried to help them defeat it, and things went bad, and she was killed, seemingly, by that, or at least put into a coma, and later died. But regardless, she was seemingly cloned again by a group called the Cogniti in the Bequin novels, and we see her training through that society, through that. They're kind of almost like a opposite opposing force to the Inquisition in some ways. Some of their members have been a main villain for the Inquisitor Ravener in his novels. So there's some interesting tie-ins there. And Bequin has been caught up in a plot to where Eisenhorn wants her because she reminds him of the old Bequin, of course. And she was also a capable fighter, and she's, a talented individual for what she can do, seemingly. But also regarding that, she gets caught up in this plot to find a character only going by the King in Yellow. And the King in Yellow is seemingly plotting something, and both Ravener and Eisenhorn are both trying to find out who the King in Yellow is and what their motives are. There's not too much known about them, but the reason why it's drawing the attention of multiple Inquisitors is because it seems like also different groups of Space Marines are involved, like Word Bearers, a cabal of sorcerers hailing from 5 or 6 different legions, a mix of loyalist and traitor legions, even. Some Emperor's Children, Chaos Marines. There's a lot of pretty powerful individuals and factions all trying to find the King in Yellow for their own purposes. Now, over the course of the second novel, we learn that Bequin gets a book, and the book is ciphered. We can't read it, but they're able to break it eventually, and it's a book containing hundreds and hundreds of names for a single individual, and the name drop at the end of the book is that the name in the book is Constantine Valder, who, if you are unfamiliar with that character, it was the very first Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's personal bodyguard, and probably one of the closest, if not closest, advisors and bodyguards to the Emperor directly, other than perhaps Malcador the Sigillite at the time of the Horus Heresy and Great Crusade. Now, Valdor is now assumed to be that King in Yellow because of this. we get a glimpse of the forces of the King in Yellow, and they seem to be clone troopers, basically. Clones of Bequin and other individuals. And there's like this great city with it seems to be in the warp somewhere, and they seem to be fighting forces of the warp. It's all a bit bizarre and weird. You would have to go I highly recommend you read the book if you haven't. The city is very strange. Its architecture is like cyclopeanly huge. There's seemingly mutated Blood Angels, Space Marines with wings like Sanguinius, also as part of their forces. If it is Constantine Valdor, he is building quite the interesting force to supposedly go after possibly Abaddon and the forces of Chaos. No custode has ever went against the Emperor, has ever been corrupted. However, Constantine Valdor did seemingly disappear. It's not said that he died anywhere, but he's no longer the Captain General of the Custodes in the current era. And so sometime in the past, he seemingly disappeared, and several other Captain Generals have also disappeared without a trace as well. So it's a weird precedent that Captain Generals seem to just walk away from the position after a time, and Valdor was no different than some of his descending leaders of the Custodes. Now, if the King in Yellow is Valdor, then that makes sense with all the breadcrumbs we've been getting. But I wonder if they're going to do a twist on us here. And the twist could be that, keeping with the tradition of everything being quite literal in Warhammer 40k, I mean, we've got characters like Ferrus Manus, meaning iron hands. Literally, Ferrus Manus has iron hands. Or, just any number of things where the name is very obviously the thing. The King in Yellow could literally mean Rogal Dorn. Rogal Dorn disappeared, and he supposedly died or was blown up on a ship in a Black Crusade, in an early Black Crusade. However, there is less and less evidence for that being the case. Everyone in the thread was talking about this, that they seem to be walking back the thought that Dorn is dead. So if he is missing, it stands to reason to me, and this is just my personal theorying here with no evidence of this, but just thinking on it, that Dorn is possibly either the King in Yellow or assisting Valdor, who is the King in Yellow. Or the other option is that, in the third book that Dan Abnett brings out for us in this trilogy, that after they either reason with Valdor or somehow kill him, I don't know how they would do that. He's a insanely powerful character from all, like Primarch level almost, as far as we know. Whatever happens with Valdor, I wonder if Dorn is not present, which would be the shock alone. I wonder if there will be any kind of breadcrumbs leading them to possibly find him, evidence of him. And the reason for that is because Dorn was the one closest to Valdor. They spent years together preparing for the siege of Terra, for Horus to descend upon Terra and try to get to the Emperor. So if it was any Primarch that Valdor was closest with, it was probably Dorn. Close second could be Alfarius, actually. I won't get into why here, but there's a possibility of that, which is an irony. But and there is an Alpha Legion Space Marine involved with this whole King in Yellow thing as well, part of Eisenhorn's retinue. So that's a bit interesting as well. But my point is that it would be interesting if Dorn was involved, because they had a close relationship, and I wonder if they both disappeared around the same time. I wonder if both of them had a similar calling or reason to leave and go build this other force that they possibly thought has a better chance at defeating Chaos once and for all. Both of them were radically shook and changed by the Horus Heresy. Valdor witnessed his 10,000 custodes, his men that he knew for centuries, mostly destroyed. I think they were diminished down to nearly 1,000 or less by the time that the Horus Heresy ended. Most of that taking place in the War in the Webway, the Secret War, while the rest of the Horus Heresy was going on. And then Dorn was there for the Emperor's last words and last moments. And if you know anything about Rogal Dorn, he's a very harsh punisher. He is not very forgiving of anyone, and I imagine that extends to himself. And so after the Emperor's death, I imagine that Dorn saw that as a failure of himself personally, and then further later on, he gets involved in the Iron Cage incident against Perturabo and has a major failure there and has to be pulled out of that by Rogal Goleman and the Ultramarines. I mean, both of these characters have been through the grinder, basically. And so we could see both of them being disillusioned with the current Imperium and also with the effectiveness of it and not being able to influence it well enough to get it, in their minds, on track for anything. So, with all that together, I feel like it would be possible that if you found Valdor, that not far away it would be Rogal Dorn. Pure theory, but it kind of struck me with the question being asked that, that it's possible these two characters are working together, and that it wouldn't just be one or the other. So anyway, that's my theory on this. I don't really have too much more to say. I don't really want to ramble on this. I didn't script it out. I just wanted to get my thoughts, why they were fresh when I was thinking about it today, on this topic. I also wanted to bring up one other thing regarding Dorn that I think is important here. If it is Dorn that is the King in Yellow, another precedent that I think is set with mentioning people like Alfarius and Valdor, is that one thing we learned in the book Praetor of Dorn is that Rogal Dorn is just as capable of subterfuge and misdirection as Alfarius was. That's how he was able to eventually catch and kill Alfarius, was because he beat him at his own game. I don't think even Alfarius realized until it was too late that Dorn knew what to do in that regard. He just didn't like the tactic. It's possible, though that reasoning has changed with the Emperor's death, that Dorn feels like any tactic is viable other than using chaos. So that's just another bit to this that I thought important to bring up, that Dorn might be using Valdor as a misdirection, or in a form of misdirection, I don't know. Just pointing out that Dorn is not quite as straight arrow as he used to be. He could be a lot more sneaky in what he's up to and what he's doing, and that Valdor could be involved as well. Some of if you're to believe Alfarius' Primarch novel, some of Alfarius' tutelage was basically through Valdor in some ways. So a lot of interesting connections there. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as well here. This is a bit of a brief of an edit clip adding into this towards the end of the video. So I'll let myself continue on from there. If you have any thoughts to this, you can leave a comment below and I'll discuss it with you. I love to read your comments. Thanks for those of you that have left them. Thank all of you for the time you spend on my videos and giving me much needed constructive criticisms as well as just pure discussion. I really enjoy it. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I appreciate it. Appreciate all of you that have subscribed so far. Please leave a like if you like this topic. And please, share this channel with anyone you think would like to talk about this stuff as well. I really would appreciate that. It is a growing new channel here, and I think we've got a good thing going. So, as always, please bring your light into the dark places, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you, and have a great day or night, wherever you are.